Hello there, this is James O'Scrofty, knows RT78, and in order to understand why defeating Nazis in the marketplace of ideas or otherwise debating any bigoted position is at best a pointless waste of time and at worst enabling crimes against humanity, we first need to understand and fully accept the fact that fascists, creationists, anti-sex work activists and so forth are all bigots. And secondly, by bigotry we mean being stubbornly devoted to one's own opinions and or beliefs in defiance of all evidence to the contrary, because while many, if not most, dictionaries define it as being intolerant of any beliefs or opinions other than one's own, as the RationalWiki article linked down to Undamar explains, this plays directly into the hands of bigots by creating the paradox of tolerance, allowing them to claim that they are the oppressed martyrs by declaring that no, you're the bigots when we refuse to tolerate their bigotry. Indeed, mortal terror of being condemned as being just as bad as the Nazis for not respecting their free speech and so forth is at least part of the reason why moderate liberal centrist collaborators walk straight into their trap by giving them a platform and allowing them to spread their bigotry. But more importantly though, the rest of the reason is their naive conceit that the issue under debate is which concept, belief, ideology, philosophy or what have you is correct, or at the very least the most beneficial, with even the very term marketplace of ideas revealing the privileged ignorance of their conceit that what is being discussed is purely academic and intellectual, either downplaying or outright ignoring the effects of what is being debated upon actual people's real lives, leading them to condescendingly sneer that we are triggered special snowflakes because we allow something as simple as a mere disagreement over a matter of opinion to lead us to condemn and refuse to have any further contact with people who voted for or otherwise supported Trump because they either fail or refuse to comprehend the fact that who you vote for is literally a matter of life and death, with people having literally been murdered for no other reason than because Trump's election emboldened the far right. As a matter of fact, it's no coincidence that the countries in which denying the Holocaust is a criminal offence are the same countries which experienced that atrocity firsthand, while the only people who defend Holocaust deniers' right to free speech, as I describe it, are invariably privileged white boys and their token supporters who fail to comprehend one other fundamental reality, which means that to debate Nazis is ultimately to empower them. Specifically, the fact that while free speech, as I mockingly denounce it, is nothing but the hypocritical demand to be free to be offensive and to spread bigoted propaganda without suffering any consequences of any kind, playing the oppressed martyr when someone blocks you on Twitter or Patreon terminates your account, while at the same time actively working to silence anyone who ever dares to oppose you, because, as I'll go into explain in this video, it's not about rights, it's about power. The right to freedom of speech or freedom of expression as protected under the First Amendment and various human rights legislation doesn't protect your right to merely have an opinion, but rather the right to at least attempt to reshape society based upon that opinion without the government stopping you. Because bearing in mind that the foundation of all civil and political rights is the protection of those who have less power, i.e. the individual, from those who have more, i.e. the government, if the government can stop people from saying, hey, the government is bad and we should replace it, then they get to stay in power for longer and have more power, and this, my friends, is where tyrannies come from. For example, whether they're the minority, the majority, right or wrong, or if you agree with them or not, many people believe that Trump is a traitor, corrupt, incompetent, mentally unfit, a criminal, or otherwise a bad president who should be removed from office, and freedom of speech gives them the power to express that opinion. Not merely to debate over whether or not they are correct, but to convince as many people as possible that they are correct in the hopes of achieving their ultimate goal, because obviously the more people who agree that Trump is a bad president who should be removed from office, the more likely it is that this will happen regardless of whether they're right or wrong. And this, my friends, is ultimately the reason why fascists, creationists, anti-abortionists, transphobes, and every other rank and stripe of bigot in existence are always so desperate to debate with their opposition. The fact that when all is said and done, the debate itself has nothing to do with who is right or which idea is best, but instead the fact that the longer they get to spout their propaganda, the more people who will inevitably agree with them. Not because the bigots presented a rational argument or otherwise persuaded them on an intellectual level, but because the people who they convince like what they are saying and think that it would be nice to live in that imaginary world as well, regardless of whether it's even possible to create such a world or how many people would have to die or suffer in order to create it. And at the end of the day, as Innuendo Studios explains in his video links down in the underbar, the fact that we struggle to prove them wrong, honestly believing that if only we can explain to them another 67 billion times why their position is false and fallacious, then they'll understand that we are right, is a major part of the reason why we keep losing and they keep gaining ground. The bitter truth that facts and reality are ultimately irrelevant to bigots, that evidence, reason and logic all matter diddly squat, because like Senator Orrin Hatch, when his pathetic attempt to defend Trump by appealing to a conspiracy theory was debunked, they simply do not care. Because to conclude this video by bringing up the inevitable reference to alternative facts and Rudy Giuliani's claim that truth isn't truth, while it's nice to have an argument to rationalise your bigotry, when it's inevitably debunked, literally nothing has changed because you're still a bigot, which is to say, stubbornly clinging to your beliefs and opinions in spite of all evidence to the contrary, and thus will simply adopt or invent another argument, always doing whatever you can to convince as many people as possible that there are 5 lights, because regardless of whether you're the inner party from George Orwell's 1984, which literally has the power to rewrite history, or a lone keyboard warrior working to create your own equivalent of the party in real life by convincing as many people as possible through claiming that you're speaking the truth in inverted commas, which insert boogeyman here seeks to suppress, and accusing anyone who tells you that you're spouting bigoted propaganda that they are the bigoted tyrants who are denying your free speech in the hopes that playing the oppressed martyr will allow you to manipulate a few more liberal moderate centrists into giving you a platform. It's not about truth, it's not about rights, it's not about freedom, and it certainly has nothing to do with facts or reality, because instead it's about doing whatever it takes to gain and maintain power, spreading your poisonous contempt for reality and peddling outright lies in the hopes of one day gaining the power to declare that they are actually the truth.
It's worth noting that even though it looks like Orwell is prompting the idea that fair and reasoned debate is the only real way to oppose the party, that because one side is shouted down, the solution must be to listen to what they're saying, he's actually kind of subverting that idea. Because see, there is no reasoned debate, because the party is everything, and the opposition is an illusion. The party produces the illusion of alternative perspectives to convince their citizens that those perspectives have been fairly defeated, when in actuality all they're doing is propping up straw men and tearing them down as a show of strength. But the thing is, even though there is no real opposition in the form of Goldstein's party, the party does occasionally face real internal opposition from citizens that have failed to be properly assimilated. And in those cases, we see the failure of quote-unquote reasoned debate, because our citizens are usually in the right. They're usually having a crisis of faith brought on by the collision between real truth and what the party claims truth to be. And they only lose because the party gets to redefine truth and essentially break the citizen's mind until they agree. What may look like reasoned debate is actually unwinnable from one end because the other is defining the nature of truth itself. It's not always possible to defeat someone who's demonstrably wrong, because there will always be people who believe them no matter what they or you say. People are stubborn, and it's not always possible to change someone's mind. It doesn't make them right, it doesn't make you wrong. Orwell talks more about this later.
Thanks very much for watching. Do please remember to click on the notification bell and to select all updates in order to at least increase the possibility that you'll be informed when I next upload a video. If you'd like to commission a video yourself on any subject within reason, then do please feel free to email me at ujames1978@mail.com, not Gmail or Hotmail, just mail.com. And assuming that your request won't get my channel flagged down, I'm certain that we can negotiate something. Alternatively, the link to my Patreon page is listed down as the underbar, the top tier of which gives you the right to demand a video on any subjects that won't get my channel flagged down every single month. Although needless to say, all pledges, no matter how small, are always greatly appreciated. And speaking of which, if you'd like to bung me a fiver simply to say thank you for being so gosh darn incredible, then the link to my paypal.me button is also linked down as the underbar.
And all the girlies say I'm pretty fly for a white guy.